Chapter 5. The Day of July 7th. Light streamed through the cracks in the curtains, casting soft golden lines across Samantha's room. Everything looked untouched, eerily still, as if time had frozen the day she vanished. The bedding remained clumped in the same tangled mess. A sharp ache twisted in Sarah's gut at the sight of it. Something's wrong, she thought, so deeply wrong. If only she knew how much. She moved quietly, her fingers tracing the edge of the dresser, searching desperately for anything, a note, a clue, a scrap of a reason that might point to where Sam had gone. She hadn't slept the night before. Her mind wouldn't rest, darting from one thought to another. The second she heard her father's truck rumble out of the driveway for work, she dressed and rushed straight to Samantha's house. Tammy and Oliver's car was gone. It was Chance who opened the door. "Where are your folks?" she asked, slightly breathless. "They said they were going to file something," he answered with a shrug, lifting his arms. "Did they find Sam?" "No," Chance said, grinning with a mischievous glint. "But when they do, she's gonna be in big trouble." That unsettling smile sent a chill down Sarah's spine. He followed her silently up the stairs and stood in the doorway as she rummaged through drawers, pulling open compartments and scanning surfaces. Nothing stood out. Just clothes, some crumpled homework, a few notes scrawled in Sam's usual hurried script. Sarah sank onto the edge of the bed, her eyes catching on the mirror above the desk. Photographs were tucked around the frame, snapshots of life frozen in happier times. In one, she and Sam beamed beside the lake, the water sparkling behind them. In another, Chance held up a giant fish, his front tooth missing, his grin triumphant. A family photo caught her eye. Tammy and Oliver looking at each other with that rare blend of love and longing. Sam had been small then, standing between them with wide eyes. They didn't look at each other like that anymore. Sarah wasn't even sure she'd ever seen them look at each other like that in real life. "Where do you think she is?" Chance finally asked, still lingering in the doorway. "I really don't know," Sarah said softly. Her eyes drifted to the nightstand. Samantha's phone sat there, untouched. She picked it up and unlocked it. 12 missed calls from her mom, 9 from her dad, and 2 from Jonathan. She searched the texts again, revisiting the strange number from before. Still disconnected. Other than those, there were only messages from Aunt Maggie, checking in now and then. Disappointed, she sighed and noticed the nightstand drawer. Inside was a notebook, lime green with black speckles, a classic composition book. On the cover, written in swirling cursive, were the words Samantha Hudson. She flipped through the pages quickly, her heart pounding. Sam's handwriting danced across the paper, entries dated and raw. But towards the end, several pages had been torn out, at least a dozen. She was about to start reading when the sound of the front door slamming shut made both her and Chance jump. Voices followed, loud, angry, and too close. Sarah quickly tucked the journal into her leather shoulder bag, the strap resting across her chest. A gift from Uncle Danny, one of the few things she treasured. She and Chance crept to the top of the stairs and leaned over, listening. "You really think a bottle's going to fix this?" Tammy's voice was sharp, brittle like shattered glass. Sarah flinched. "When is a good time for you?" Oliver shot back. "Don't act like this is some big surprise." "This is your fault, Oliver. She's gone because of you." Tammy's voice cracked under the pressure of rage and heartbreak. "You think I don't know that?" Oliver's voice broke too, softer now, raw with guilt. "It's my fault. But what was I supposed to do? We couldn't afford it. We almost lost the house." "Well, now we've lost our daughter," Tammy snapped, her voice trembling. Sarah glanced down at Chance, whose eyes were filling with tears. "Hey, buddy, she whispered gently. "Why don't you go hang out in your room, okay?" He nodded silently and shuffled down the hall. With Sam's phone still clenched in her hand, Sarah slowly descended the stairs. "I'm not the only one to blame," Oliver said, his voice rising again. "You agreed to it just as much as I did." "You said there was no other option," Tammy cried. "You made her. We could have figured something else out." Sarah turned the corner, stepping into the kitchen just as Cammie's voice cracked into sobs. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Figure what out?" Tammy and Oliver froze. They were on opposite sides of the kitchen island. Tammy burying her face in her hands, Oliver bracing himself against the granite countertop, a half-empty bottle dangling from one hand. They hadn't seen her come in. "What do you mean this is your fault?" Sarah asked again, her voice rising with emotion. Oliver took a drink and finally spoke, his voice nearly a whisper. "Because it is," he said, eyes glistening. "It's my fault she left." Tammy turned away, walking to the window as if the view outside could offer answers. "What happened, Mr. Hudson?" Sarah asked, her voice now shaking. Oliver's gaze fell to the floor. She got into something she wasn't ready for. With that guy. And he paused, struggling. "I sent her away to deal with it." Sarah's stomach dropped. "She was expecting," he said carefully, avoiding the harsher word. "And I told her she had no choice. She didn't want to go, but I made her." Sarah's mind reeled. "Sammy didn't tell me. Why wouldn't she tell me?" "She's not anymore," Oliver said, eyes darkening. "And now she hates me." The pieces began to fall together and rage bubbled up. She crossed the room in seconds and shoved him, hard. The bottle slipped from his hand and crashed to the floor. He barely moved, but stood taller, letting her hit his chest as she cried, fists pounding. "How could you?" she sobbed. He didn't stop her until finally, gently, he grabbed her wrists. "I made a mistake," he whispered, holding her just firmly enough to calm her. "We just got back from the station," Oliver said, wiping his face. They said it sounds like she ran away because of what happened." Sarah's fists clenched, one still wrapped around Sam's phone. The pain in her chest was unbearable. It hadn't been that long ago that they'd stayed up all night laughing, talking about the future, being kids. Nothing in Sam's behavior hinted at this. Why now? Why leave without saying goodbye? She stared at Oliver, this broken man who looked too much like Samantha when he cried. "She would have told me," Sarah said through clenched teeth. She slammed the phone down on the counter. "Sammy wouldn't have just run away." That's all she could manage. She couldn't scream, couldn't rage, not when she saw how hollow Oliver had become. But inside, she was unraveling. "Here's her phone," she added, and turned sharply toward the door. There was only one other person who might know where Samantha had gone.